My name is Cameron Calhoun. I've been with Modul-Bio for about 8 months now. I am the U.S.-based business development manager. I've got a background in biology from the University of Alabama, and have been working specifically with biorepositories, biobanks, and research centers for the past 5 years now.
Thanks, Cam. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Mike Woodward. I'm also a business development manager at Modul-Bio. I've been there for 9 years, I think now. My background is science. I started life as a forensic scientist, worked in that field for quite a few years. And then I kind of moved into the software side of things and then into the commercial side of the software in forensics and worked internationally for a few years as well. And then I made the jump into biobanking and found myself at Modul-Bio. And I'm looking forward to just talking about some of the things that we do. And we're going to show you a little bit of the software as well. So hopefully everybody can see the Modul-Bio screen. Just so everyone's aware, that's one of the beautiful coloncs in the Provence region, not far from headquarters in Marseille. If you ever get the chance to visit that part of the world, it's quite a breathtaking site. Just as a quick introduction about the company, rather than us individually, we've been doing this for 20 years and developed a biobanking LIMS or a BIMS based on that 20 years experience with our clients. We work collaboratively with them. A lot of the modules and functionality have come from conversations or changes in the industry. And that's kind of one of the things I want to concentrate on today is taking each project individually, working with the client to find out what they need and providing not just the software, but the expertise that we can offer as well. So we are specialized in the concept of biological sample collection, and our software actually is only designed for this purpose. It's not a generic LIMS that other scientific labs use very often. I mean, it is possible, but we focus most of our time on biorepositories, biobanks, cohort projects, that kind of thing. So we've got a mixture of scientists, as Cameron and I have just introduced ourselves, and software engineers at the company. And over 300 laboratories in the world are now using our solutions. Cameron and I have been focusing quite a lot on the US recently, but we have clients across Europe and the Middle East as well. So as I said, the headquarters is in sunny Marseille. I'm in rainy England. Cameron is in, I'm assuming, quite warm Ohio at the moment. And we also have a office in Canada. So what I want to talk about with the delivery of the software is how we put together a package depending on what the client needs. So there's obviously a base system that provides all the base functionality a biobank needs, but we've also got other modules, other types of training that we can provide. So it really depends on the type of biobank that is looking for a solution. Now, this could range from what we call our enterprise solution, where a client gets all modules, can have unlimited users, and can work across a large organization, or it could be quite a small bank that just needs to collect and store samples. And one of the benefits of this approach is it can have modules bolted on. So if things change over time, a client will come back and say, actually, we bought a new robot, or we're working with a new type of project, and we can work with them to provide the tools that they need. And we've tried to build into the software, other than new modules, as much functionality that the client can manage themselves. So they can add their own fields, they can change their sample types, they can create new studies, but we're always there to help if things change. So that's kind of one of the things I wanted to ask the audience that are here, because I'm going to concentrate on some base functionality, but I also want to think about the concept of multiple geographic sites, and that could be within the same hospital, the same building, or it could be international. So some of our clients, for example, campus-wide solutions in America, where you have multiple biobanks that are all linked together, so they all use the same software but are working in silos. Some of our clients have a separate site for their collecting center. So the people at the hospital can use MBioLIMS to say that they've collected samples and then send to the main bank. So the first poll was just really about that, to understand in the audience, do you have multiple locations, or are you just a single biobank that has samples delivered? And then in Cameron's part, we're going to look at the second poll, which is about what you actually do with those samples once you have them. So what I want to look at is this concept of multiple sites. So this is a kind of base concept of several biobanks linked together within the same MBioLIMS ecosystem. And the smaller syringe icons are collecting centers that can enter data and then send to the main biobanks. Now, the visual look of the software that they use may be different because they don't have as much functionality needed at the collecting centers. They're just collecting and shipping. And the main bank may have more functionality for processing or storage or searching the information that's there. So we're going to have a look at this in the software. We're going to run an example, and hopefully it will make sense to some of you that do this type of thing. Cameron's then going to take the samples, do some work with them, talk about the workflow module, which is another bolt-on that some of our clients are finding really useful. This is where the things that you do with the samples, you store them, you process them, you aliquot them, you maybe run some analysis on them, add results. So all of that is in the system manually, but you can also link that together using our workflow module. So we're just going to run through a quick example in the software, so that this hopefully makes sense. And obviously we'll be available to ask any questions. So I'm just going to switch my screen to the software itself. Hopefully that has appeared. So this is the main dashboard, excuse me, of MBioLIMS. I'm not going to go into all of the functionality. There's so much functionality, but obviously contact us if you want to learn more about it. What I'm actually going to do is, as a person at the collecting center in our made-up scenario, I'm going to collect some samples, potentially store them at my collecting site if need be, but I'm actually going to ship them directly to Cameron. So I'm going to go to the collection tab, and let's assume this was a visit that happened at a hospital. A patient came in, some samples were taken from them. So I'm going to be working on a particular study, and I'm going to completely anonymize a patient. You won't see this. This is off screen at the moment on a separate tab. I'm just indicating that consent is present. And then MBioLIMS has created a completely anonymized, uniquely identified new patient that is now going to be connected to this study, and we're going to collect samples. So the study that I'm actually looking at is a longitudinal one. And what you can do in the software is design templates for what you expect to be collected. Now that might not always be the case. Some of our post-surgery collection clients don't know what samples they're getting. But in this scenario, we've indicated we're expecting on the first visit of this patient to collect 2 bloods. And then over the rest of the month, there may be different types of samples that are collected. So when I select that, the day 0 visit and suggest that this happened yesterday, that will load at the bottom. It's expecting 2 bloods that we're going to take from this patient and then do some processes on. And there's obviously other information you can capture here. In the time we've got, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but because you can create custom fields, you can collect whatever data you need per study. So when you search that data at the end, you're getting the most viable results that you can. So we've got a couple of bloods. Again, I'm going to keep it simple and just save that. The system will make sure I've populated any mandatory fields that existed. And it's allowed me to create them. So I obviously filled them all out. And we've now got 2 new samples into the system that are uniquely identified as well. And there's a workflow attached to this study, to the visit attached to this the study that we're going to do some work with. What I'm going to do is drop them into what we call our working list. You can store samples, boxes, patient records, whatever you need a shortcut to, you can drop into these useful tools on the right-hand side of the screen. I'm actually going to use it in a process of shipping something to Cameron. Okay, so what I'm going to do is say I've collected my samples and I'm going to create an internal transfer. Now, all of these boxes, you can use handheld scanners to scan the samples into. You can also use the working list to drop samples directly in. And you can do that with one click. So this could be hundreds of samples that I'm dropping into this particular process. It's the same for storage. Same kind of screen, you could scan samples into storage. It's the same for processes if you're doing them manually. If I was going to do a DNA extraction on these bloods, I'd drop them into a DNA process, exactly the same screen. So it becomes quite simple to use because most of the screens are quite intuitive and you see the same types of things quite a lot. So as I said, I'm in a collecting site. I'm going to send them to the central biobank where Cameron's patiently waiting for the samples. I'm going to select Cameron on the list. And again, there's other things that you could populate here. You could say who's it being transported with. You could add additional information. You could add files, maybe a shipping manifest if you wished. And then when I click save, that's going to create an internal transfer record. So as you can imagine in the background, the audit trail is storing all of these steps that I've done. It's linking the samples to the study, the patient to the study, and we now have an internal transfer record, which again, it's storing I created it, what date, what time, all that type of thing. So at this point, I could add additional information again if I wish to, but the internal transfer is now in progress. Cameron should have had a notification to say that there's some samples on the way, and I'll get a notification when he actually receives the samples. So there's a full kind of custody trail of what's happened with the samples. And I forgot to point it out on the last screen. You can also indicate when you're doing a transfer, do I want Cameron to manually scan all of these samples to double check that the right ones that he's expecting are the ones that he's received in the parcel? And there's plenty of other validation steps that we can do at that point. We may come back to me at the end. I'm certainly going to stay around for questions, but we may be going to talk about some searching things after Cameron's done. But Cameron, are you ready to take over the next step?
I am, yes. Thanks, Mike. I'm going to replace current share, and we'll go ahead and share the screen. Everyone able to see that coming through? Perfect. So as Mike had indicated, I have gotten a notification up here the second that he processed that internal transfer. And so I'm able to click on that and go in and review the details of that transfer, as well as the specimens he shipped. Okay, you can see all the information he stored along with that transfer information. If there were files that he attached, those would be available as well. And so what I'm going to do is take these specimens, I'm going to move them over to my working list because I don't have them physically present. I can't barcode scan them. But I'm going to go ahead and select them for receipt. Okay, these are assuming they've come into the laboratory. And here you can see, just as Mike had pointed out, another one of those element boxes. And this is where it's looking to validate against the specimens we're saying have been received. So you can see once those are in there like that, it's got a green number 2 indicating that everything is correct. However, if I adjust it, see a notification at the bottom saying that that record doesn't exist. It's now turned to orange. So again, just a little bit of validation there to confirm that what we're saying is going into the database is actually accurate. Okay. Once I've got that information put in there, I'm going to go ahead and save that. And that's going to bring those specimens into our database, adjusting their status from transferred to active. Okay. At this point now, I'm going to navigate specifically to those specimens because as Mike had pointed out, we want to take a look at those workflows, the processes that we had set up following that visit. So we'll navigate through the sample page real quick over to that visit level that Mike was looking at. Okay, and I noticed we're mixed on how many people are processing specimens upon receipt versus just storing them. It's very simple in MBioLIMS. If you're interested in just storing them immediately once received, you can select them and go ahead and store them. But because I want to show this workflow process, we're actually going to store the aliquots, the daughters that come from these 2 tubes afterwards. Okay, so in order to kick off this workflow, first I want to take a look at what it is. So for this bomb flow, we have built out a couple chain processes. We're taking 2 whole bloods, running them through a fecal spin, okay, which is going to generate some PBMCs, and those PBMCs we'd like to run a cell count assay on. and report those results. For the red blood cells that are being generated from the spin, we're going to aliquot those to create more red blood cells. Okay, so I'm going to navigate back to this visit level since we've got that all templated out and select the whole bloods that we'd like to run through that process. Okay, and we'll take the two that we have collected. All right, and we're going to save and execute. Okay, so we click confirm and save. It's going to take us to the workflow output page, which is going to show those parent specimens that we were working with, those two whole bloods, all right, and all of the child tubes that were created from that. So you can see the 3 PBMCs per whole blood and the 2 red blood cells. You've got all the information over here that you'd like to track on that workflow. If you have protocols that you'd like to upload or any SOPs that you want to be able to attach, you can very easily do that as well. And then if we navigate back over to the workflow at this point, you're able to see the updated steps in this procedure. So the fecal spin has been completed as is indicated in green. And now this process is just waiting for the cell count to be run and the aliquoting of those red blood cells. Okay. So now I'm going to navigate back to the visit, okay, and store the specimens that we have processed. Okay, so I'm going to take this list and show a view all. Oops, let me run a real quick refresh on this. There it was. Okay, active, scheduled. We'll just move these ones over here for right now. Okay, and what I'm going to do with these, there it is right there. Let's move it to show all. Okay, and I'd like to select all the ones that we have active and go ahead and store those in our freezers. Okay, so we're going to select store. We can select the store date and time. All right, and this is going to pull up our storage tree. You can see we've got 3 different labs set up. All right, we're going to navigate into this last one here and find one of our 10 by 10s and go ahead and position these specimens. Okay, in the storage tree, you can see we've got a couple different color indicators. If a position's occupied, if you have a reserved slot for a specimen that's been removed for testing, for analysis, whatever it might be that you're interested in putting it back in, and then green for free and blue for the selected location. In MBioLIMS, one of the unique parts about the freezers is you're able to create securities around what specimens are able to go and which labs, which freezers, which boxes, along with which studies might be able to access them. So you can really create siloed and unique environments for everybody that's interacting with it. I'm going to go ahead and store these specimens here. Okay. And they have now been put in place, right? I'm going to select one of those specimens we put in so we can take a look finally at that sample page to see how it captures and lays out that information, all the processing steps we've gone through, all the storing. So you can see here it gives us an individual tube overview at the sample page. You're able to see the visit that it's associated to, the patient inclusion number, as well as the patient ID. Okay, what collection it's a part of, so that BOMP study that we're working with. You can see down here we have custom fields also included. So all of these fields that we've been seeing and interacting with have been stocked out of the box, but you do have the opportunity to build out your own custom fields to receive any type of information you're looking to associate with a visit, with a patient, with a specimen, and so on. Okay, you're able to see here the storage information. So any storage history, if something is removed, moved, destroyed, you can see all of that information. It's tracked at that sample level. And again, another unique aspect of MBioLIMS, it is so easily integrated with different temperature monitoring software. So if you do have that set up and one of your freezers goes out of temperature, that information is tracked at the individual sample level as well. So you're able to keep track of that again at the most granular layer within the system. Okay. Down here, we're able to see the sample genealogy. So this came from that fecal spin, from that whole blood. And you can see down here, again, more container relationships. So that whole blood, that is the parent, and then the aliquot tubes that were created as well alongside it are available here. Okay. Now, I don't want to take up any time that we might have for Q&A, but the very last thing I wanted to show is another way that we can review this information once it's in the system. So obviously, Mike showed how you generate the specimens, how we can transfer them, interact with them through processing, and finally store them. But how do we then access the data? How do we find the information that's most useful? In BioLIMS, there's a couple different ways that you can do it. We have simple search opportunities where you can plug in little bits and pieces about a visit or about a patient or specimen and recall that information. One of my favorite features or ways to do that is through our advanced query system, which allows you to define the criteria that you're looking to search with, and then the results that you're looking for to provide. This gives you the opportunity to create a results list that are mixed between visits and patients and specimens and get you specifically the information you're looking to see. So here I'm going to pick out one of the ones that we have saved, and you can see we've got quite a few. It is the mutation one that was shared. Okay, I'm going to load this criteria so you're able to see what we have here. So you can see the results that we're looking to have presented. All right, and then the criteria we have set up, that is sample type equals DNA, right? And the tube is showing mutation on the JAK2. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and search that, and it's going to provide us with that list. And you can see here, as Mike had pointed out, those working list icons, you're then able to take this, move it over to your working list if you need to process a shipment off of those results, or you need to destore them, destroy them, whatever you need to do. It's very easy and nimble when interacting with the specimens at this point. So I think that covers everything I wanted to touch in the system. Mike, is there anything else that you had in mind you wanted to touch on, or do we want to just kind of open it up for any questions?
Yeah, I think questions. I just wanted to end that bit with we looked at an internal shipment. There's also external shipment. So this comes into play where a researcher may have asked for samples with the criteria that Cameron's just searched. You can then drop them into an external shipment, and again, the system will track that they've gone to a particular researcher. You can also get them back as well and plug them back into the system if that happens in your process as well. Well, thanks everyone. We're very happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thanks very much, Mike and Cam. And so we've got a Q&A section at the bottom of the screen. If you click on the icon, Q&A icon, you can enter in your questions. And while people are thinking about that, Mike, we have some poll results. I don't know if you'd
Okay,
like to look at them. I can share them with you.
sure. Oh, it's
Can
quite
you
a split.
can
Quite
you
a
see?
split.
It
Yes,
is, yeah.
that's interesting. Yeah, it's. I mean, and that's kind of one of the things I wanted to touch on today is that every client we work with has slightly different needs and does slightly different things, which is why we built the system the way we built it. But that kind of validates the point that there's such a split in the audience that's here today.
Right. We have some questions now. We have a question from Riyad Tebeka. I think there are options for managing anonymization, pseudonymization, or encryption if we want to go back if necessary. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah. There's the software can actually anonymize patients completely, or you can anonymize the nominative data and only have certain users have access to that. So the name, the date of birth, whatever that may be. And all this data is obviously stored in the database, so you can go back and look at it whenever you need to.
Right. And yeah.
Yeah, see the second question. That's a really difficult one to answer because it's such a range of clients from in size. It's such a
Mm.
range of functionality and modules that they need. And it's either based on the amount of users or unless it's an enterprise level or something like that. So it really does range. I don't think we've ever sold the same price to clients because the needs are always slightly different. So we do quite a intensive requirements gathering before we get to that point.
That's the unique thing about it being modular as well is there aren't features that you get that you don't need. It is built to only include the modules and portions of the software that are actually relevant to your day-to-day workflows. So it is nice.
Right. I have a question here, Mike. What if a lab is seeking to store specimens not associated with patients? Can you handle that?
Yeah, we have it used to be a separate module, to be honest, Robert, but it's no longer a separate module. It's part of the core system. So it's a very similar thing that we looked at today, but without the patient bolt-on. So you just add samples. They could be strains. They could be. And we work with several animal biobanks. I think it's the largest fox biobank in France. That always makes me smile. But yeah, we used to sell it as a separate software, a kind of cut down version of MBioLIMS. But in one of the recent updates, we bolted them together, and now clients and it's we kind of really pleased that we did that, because in the campus-wide solutions, we're now dealing with multiple biobanks within the same ecosystem. Some of them are non-human, some of them are human, and we've even found some of the biobanks work with both human and non-human samples. So when you build a study now, you can say, is this for human or non-human samples? And you can have a mixture of the two.
Great. There's another question from Charlene.
Is it possible to test the software? Yeah. What we do in some cases is we'll go through the requirements process. We'll look at potential finances, and then we provide sandboxes for some of our prospective clients so that they have a bit of time with me or Cam, play with the software, but basically put their own type of data in so that they can visualize how they'll work with the system. And those sandbox sessions vary in length, depends on what each client needs.
Right. Question from Isabel. Can we import data automatically from our hospital system?
You want to take that, Cam?
Yes, you are able to create seamless integrations between the FHIR Epic softwares to bring the data over directly, so you're not having to worry about double data entry between the two. That is something that can be set up.
Yeah, there's HL7
many of our
connections.
Many of our clients use the Epic integration specifically.
Okay, question from Lizzie. Can the user configure the LIMS to fit the repository's operational processes, or does the repository need to change steps in their processes to accommodate limitations of the LIMS?
That's a very good question. The answer is you can configure it. You set your own processes, you set your own sample types, you set your own workflows, whatever you're doing, you basically can add those yourself. It doesn't have to be Modul-Bio that does that. The second part of the bit I find interesting, Cam and I were talking about this today, there is a level of change management. If you're coming from Excel, you're coming from a different software, there will be differences within MBioLIMS. So some things potentially do have to change. But I like to think that all the things that you would change using MBioLIMS means that it's a quicker, more efficient process than however it was done previously. But the majority of it can be set up by you.
Yeah, I can give a kind of a real life example on that. Somebody that I just recently spoke with was spending hours a week combining their exports of visits, patients, and specimens to be able to generate the reports that they needed to use internally. And using, the advanced query like we had looked at, they're able to now take and immediately generate that list in the format that they need and quickly process it to a PDF, an Excel, or a CSV. So hopefully, like Mike said, the changes are positive and helpful.
Okay, questions keep coming in. Question from Ombretta.
Sorry, if you want to read it out, Robert, I've just.
Do you want me to? Okay. From what you've seen in your experience so far, for a middle-sized company, over 500 employees, how long does it take to transition to your system, starting from their domestic way of uploading and documenting samples? Let's say for 10 to 20,000 samples distributed among commercial biosamples and samples from clinical trials. And thank you for this interesting webinar.
Yeah, it's a question we get asked quite a lot at the start of a project. And again, it always depends on the size and the type of the project that people are working on. So for example, during COVID time, we got some systems out really quick so people could start COVID studies. So we were talking weeks in some cases, and we just gave them some training. They hit the ground running. But in those cases, they were starting almost from a blank slate. They hadn't got legacy data to be concerned about. And the legacy data is normally the thing that takes the longest to resolve in a new transition. The transition of using the system, I think, is pretty quick. It's a very easy to use system. It's quite self-explanatory. There's a lot of help information as well. And it's just about visualizing those processes and how they're going to be set up within MBioLIMS. So I normally recommend 3 months in mid-sized projects. Sometimes it's a little bit longer. And a lot of it depends on, do you need all the legacy data straight away? There's actually a tool within MBioLIMS to import legacy data anyway that you can use yourself. But often the problem is not so much importing the legacy data, but cleaning it. Over the years, there may be some nuances, shall we say, with the data that's been collected, and it needs to be in a kind of correct format for MBioLIMS to use it effectively. And there's another question about the platform that's built on. So we use an Oracle database. We could provide an embedded license for those that haven't got an Oracle license themselves. And this can be a physical installation or hosted on a platform. I'm not going to say AWS at the moment, so we have clients on AWS, but we strongly recommend OCI. Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. It's a very secure and fast way of hosting a system.
Right. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, Mike and Cam, and thanks to the audience for some great questions, a very active discussion. If people want to contact you, Mike or Cam, how should they do it? What's the best way?
Feel free to contact us directly, or info@Modul-Bio. It's on our website. That will come to all the sales team. I'm only saying that because I'm going on holiday to Greece, and Cameron's going to have to pick up all the inquiries for a while. So,
okay. Well, fantastic.
Thanks
you very
again,
much.
Robert.
Pleasure.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you, Robert.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye now.